Major League Baseball. Definitely not playing responsibly. 2025 was a fascinating year on the diamond. We had a switch-hitting catcher in contention for AL MVP. Kyle Schwarber smoked more dongs than Bonnie Blue. Teams like the Blue Jays and Brewers pushed for October runs. And eventual heartbreak to the Dodgers. One of the best World Series we've seen in a decade with a death-defying Game 7. The sport has been revolutionized, for better or worse. The pitch clock has been a godsend to the eyes of Manfred. Pitchers cutting through everything they face, even their own tendons and shoulders. Guys like Shohei Ohtani doing things that baseball hasn't seen since, what? Bugsy Mo Weber of the 1887 Joplin shows? ABS finally ushering the age of robot umps by challenging awful ball and strike calls. With some kinks to work out. Ideally, baseball's pushing into the modern age while trying to maintain its traditional roots. But in the distance, storm clouds are forming. One of the greatest battles that the league has seen in decades will commence on ball fields across America. The current collective bargaining agreement ends in December, and war approaches. A tentative situation becomes increasingly precarious with every passing day. The walkers of a lockout are nearing the baseball wall. Preparations must be made. War chests being stockpiled for the upcoming labor siege. The union bracing for the long night. It's not if a standoff occurs. It's for how long. In fact, I dare say the lockout has already begun years ago for some teams. And to truly grasp it, you have to go back to the last battleground. 2021 and 2022 were years of turmoil for baseball. The league had been bleeding money because of a certain Corona-chan wreaking havoc on the world. Game attendance had been limited to cardboard cutouts, stray cats, and uncanny 3D audiences. The game had been modified in an effort to even play games. Remember 7-inning doubleheaders? But in the shadows, tensions bubbled. The owners were engaging in salary warfare. Free agency had been dead for a few good years, even before COVID. Nobody was truly bidding on players. There were a few guys that ended up getting sizable paydays, but who truly suffered? The rank-and-file veteran. And pretty much everyone else who wasn't an elite ball player. Or not named Freddie Freeman. So we get what we had in the 99-day lockout. Slap fights and standstills for weeks on end. Hostile? What do you mean? They're all having drinks together at the Christmas party. And getting into brawls in the parking lot. The fight dragged out into March. Spring training was delayed. Games were nearly removed from the schedule entirely. It took both sides being dragged to the woodshed and being forced to kiss and make up. But the resistance was never quelled. The only solutions were temporary half measures. An upgraded vision play and a hotline to report threats to players, a raise to MLB minimum salaries and minor league pay, jersey sponsorships and reduced travel. Baseball wanted expanded playoffs and they got that with the extra seed. No, I'm not bitter about what was once the shitty wildcard game. What are you talking about? Another solution was anti-tanking measures done by draft lottery limitations. It's resulted in some very, very hilarious consequences. But there were things merely kicked down the road leading to an uneasy peace that has been tested repeatedly. They never agreed to a salary cap or floor. Qualifying offers were still a thing. The international prospect market was still the Wild West. Shit, the Phillies just gave a $1.8 million bonus to an 11-year-old. The universal DH and a pre-R bonus pool can only do so much. It's obvious that these were just band-aids on Krakatoa. And there were divisions in the union ranks as well. The high-end players were overruled by the unwashed plebs on the deal. No war chest and a finite playing career will do that. But at least the teams would have those TV deals to fall back on to make up for the losses, right? Like a broken Renegade record, I've been over this repeatedly for the past few years. Diamond Sports Network, AT&T Sportsnet, and more couldn't transition into the age of plug pulling and streaming. And the result was relinquishing rights to more than a few teams. Roughly a third of them by 2025. 5 teams had games produced by MLB itself. And in 2026 it'll get even worse. Due to the collapse of Main Street Sports, 9 more franchises have terminated their unstable RSN deals. 7 of those teams will now be under the MLB media wing. Think about that. In the span of about 5 years, over half the league is without an exclusive RSN deal. It's how things used to be, but the problem is that the RSN money wasn't a bonus. It was built into the team ledger as a necessity, resulting in about a quarter of a team's revenue in a given year. Then it just vanished for some teams. Except if you're the Nationals, then you got back pay from the Orioles dating back to 2016. There were teams in a few cities that banded together to form their own RSNs and get streaming revenue, but there's a huge problem. That sum is nowhere close to their old RSN rates. Take the Pirates, for example. Joining forces with the Penguins has about halved their revenues in this regard. The Astros, Tigers, and Braves will be building their own, but their overhead will now be higher because of it. St. Louis is bracing to lose $20 million in revenue, and that might be an optimistic projection. Where is this impact immediately felt? On the field. You can tell for yourself as to which teams lost their RSN. They either significantly shed payroll or didn't do anything to add to their rosters over the last few years. Some teams did both, and some were the Twins. The Pollats just went senile and started cold calling lapsed season ticket holders. Others just used it as an excuse to cut down on costs wherever they could. Why do you think the Tigers lowballed the shit out of two-time Cy Young winner Tarek Skubal in arbitration? It's not just because Chris Ilitch doesn't care. They're going to be sharing the pie of Detroit Sportsnet with the Red Wings. That or pay Framber Valdez to try and kill another catcher. Some, like Cincinnati, threw a bag at Kyle Schwarber, but it sank to the bottom of the Ohio. Then Castellini decided to say fuck it and go home, for like his fans, he had nowhere else to go. The only teams doing well in this new domain are the ones with fuck you money spewing out of every pore or own their own networks. It's the extremely rich, a huge gap, a gigantic pile of shit, and everyone else. The Dodgers have had 2 years of spending sprees because they all but own money printers. Even then, that's no guarantee a team will spend to their potential. Gaze at the Cubs. One of the blue bloods of the league openly using the impending lockout and revenue issues as an excuse to drop payroll down below the luxury tax. To be fair, Kyle Tucker's market was ridiculous. Is that $60 million a year from the Dodgers? With a 6? For a guy that hasn't had more than 6 WAR in a season? Dude spends a shitload of time in the trainer's room. What the hell are Skubal and Skeens gonna get on the open market? With the revenue uncertainty and baseball royalty feasting upon Marlins and Rob Deere's carcass, a lot of teams are headed into a wait-and-see mode with what happens in 2026. Why wait? There's a massive sticking point that could jeopardize the entire operation. If the RSN issues weren't going to cause total war in the near future, it would be this smoking gun. The salary cap. Baseball owners want it. Players don't. Players desire a salary floor. The reality is the sport needs both, but that'll have to be done kicking and screaming. If there's one thing the players' union is militantly against, it's a hard salary cap. Even a more punishing luxury tax is off the table. Not in a million years will they agree to such a ball and chain. It might as well be a death sentence. The owners balk at a floor Steve Carlton style. To many of the more skinflint owners, it would make their operations untenable. Especially those that lost their RSN deals. Honestly, they're far more pissed at the likes of Daddy Steve chucking an entire island's yearly GDP at Juan Soto. The Dodgers deferring most of their money to some pump-and-dump scheme in the 2040s is making the rest of them look bad. They'll cry poor over it, even though it's costing them potential playoff runs now. If there was a time to get these implemented, it was 30 years ago. The salary cap situation has gotten far too complex and divided to come to a common ground. It's become baseball's Alsace-Lorraine. If you were to even put the cap at, say, $500 million, I still don't think the union would agree. It's just the principle of it. Yet if you think about modern baseball, most teams pretty much have a hard internal cap already set. And it might get tighter. It's shown in free agency. There were countless players looking to get big money that didn't succeed in it since the lockouts. Most of them were ironically Boris clients. The likes of Alex Bregman, Cody Bellinger, Matt Chapman, Blake Snell, Jordan Montgomery, Pete Alonso. They were forced to take short-term deals because the market just wasn't there for them. Snell was coming off a Cy Young when he signed with the Giants, for God's sake. Although in the case of Montgomery, that might have been for the best. However, this offseason, like the contracts most of these guys are on now, was productive and fruitful. For the upper class. There was over $3 billion earmarked to free agents this winter. Almost $2 billion of it was spent by only 8 teams. The bottom 11 groups accounted for just over 8% of it. Kyle Tucker's nearly making as much for the entirety of his contract. If that doesn't signify a Fabergé egg of a league, I don't know what does. Remember, owners are prepping for a lockout. There isn't a $2 billion war chest for shits and giggles. Why splurge in free agency for the likes of Tucker, Schwarber, Cease, or a rich influx of Japanese talent when war's on the horizon? The usual baseball oligarchy will be in the running, but most teams will pass. The same thing happened in the 2020-21 offseason. Although Corona-chan may have had a majority role to play in that. What that means is that you will get paid. If you're elite. If you're a rank-and-file player, you'll likely be left in the dust. Look, with how cordial conversations between Manfred and Bryce Harper have been, these negotiations should be going swimmingly. Tony Clark isn't outright accusing owners of collusion to keep player salaries down. They're all gathering around singing Kumbaya by the hot stove. While Clark gets a bit too comfortable with his sister-in-law. He had to step down from his post. Wait, he gave her a cushy job in the union too? The issue with baseball's future is two-pronged. We're trying to modernize the game without turning it into NASCAR levels of unrecognizable, all the while juggling the impending battles about to take place at the negotiating table. It's going to take a commissioner with savvy and vision to guide MLB in the right direction. We know Manfred's got the right frame of mind for this precarious situation.
Expansion, realignment, expanded playoffs. I mean, Can you see that down the road?
I can. I think the first two topics are related in my mind. I think if we expand, it provides us with an opportunity to geographically realign. I think we could save a lot of wear and tear on our players in terms of travel, and I think our postseason format would be even more appealing for entities like ESPN.
Whoa, wait a fucking minute. You want to expand the league? My brother in Christ, how tone deaf can you be? 2 franchises were playing in goddamn minor league parks last year. You have a widening gap between the haves and have-nots, about half the league crying poor, and an impasse between owners and the union, yet you want to expand? This might be dumber than the Ghost Runner. All for cementing a legacy of something. So who are you gonna get to pony up not only a $2.1 billion expansion fee, but state-of-the-art stadiums? Tom Dundon, Mark Cuban, future Congressman Mark Teixeira? For instance, Orlando is a true proposal in the works, but have you seen their stadium design? A glass dome in Florida? For $2 billion before cost overruns? In terms of geographical realignment, what do you mean? 4 divisions instead of 3 are ending the whole AL and NL phenomenon after more than 120 years. There are no differences between leagues anymore. The DH is universal now. Do we go to Eastern and Western leagues or, God forbid, conferences? There's so much to unpack with this. I'd personally say fix up your own houses before you start buying up other properties, but that isn't sexy. Stuart Sternberg fucking off has finally got the Tampa Bay ball rolling again. The A's will get their Las Vegas shrine in time. Just ignore that tourism in the city of Vegas has cratered since COVID, as less permanent residents than El Paso add a dash of exploding stadium construction costs and you're good. Nashville could work, but they're already throwing a shitload of money at the Titans' new digs. Maybe Salt Lake City to expand Ryan Smith's empire? Charlotte or Portland? Force the Giants to remove their iron grip from San Jose? Probably not. Maybe we can bring back Montreal. Or bring back some semblance of sanity in the baseball world. So let's see. Players and owners ready to brawl, teams still reeling from COVID and RSN deal issues, the players' union itself in a state of chaos and flux, owners preparing their Schwarbomb shelters, and the baseball establishment ignoring all of it in the quest to create a legacy. Why would you be cynical about CBA negotiations? We have a whole baseball season to play. World Baseball Classic's gonna be fucking phenomenal again. Especially if Dick Monfort represents the owners again. Oh yeah, baby! It's frustrating since we're in what should be a golden age of baseball. Pitching is the best it's ever been. Athletic feats are a near nightly occurrence. Outfield walls are being scaled better than Spider-Man. And the long ball reigns supreme. For a handful of teams. The rest either can't or won't keep up. And the ones that'll suffer in the end are the fans. But pay attention when your team's gearing up for a work stoppage. If baseball's not careful, they could put themselves back in the mid-90s. People were so pissed at Major League Baseball they nearly abandoned the sport. The next moves from here are up to everyone involved. Maybe they all come to their senses and move forward for the sake of the game. But that's unfortunately a pipe dream. The only words being uttered on the diamond? Winter is coming. Make your preparations now.
Looking for one in the WBC. The 2-1 now.